Ash,
Yes,
you fucked up the order already. Look, straight away. What's
Oh,
wrong
what
with you?
happened here? Can we? There you go.
Jesus
How you doing,
Christ.
guys? Wes,
How are
where
How
you
you?
you
at?
doing?
How are
I'm next door
you?
to you. How you doing?
How
Yeah,
you
good,
doing?
guys. How was your week so far from 1 to 95?
1 to 95, we've gone up in the world. I'm gonna put mine in the chat. I had a
Wes,
99.9.
Wes, tell me about your week. I'm really curious. Where have you been?
I've been firmly in your pocket for the last 5 days, which is great.
How
Um,
does that feel?
it's great because I massage your ego and I make you look great. So it's also.
So how does your week look from 1 to 95?
I told you 99.9. Let's go.
Brilliant.
I'm in the sun, even though I've not seen it. I've been under fluorescent light all week.
Mine has been one because you're so far away from me.
Oh, this guy in Heartbreak
Oh,
Hotel right here. So
mate,
literally
you
for
got
the
me
viewers,
shocked
like
now.
Martin's through there. I'm sat on the stage in the middle of Cyprus at Reflect Festival. We did an amazing personal brand workshop this morning without Ash. So
That's why it
that
was
shows a lot.
amazing.
That shows a lot. And yeah, we've done good. This room was really quiet until the cleaners just turned up. They're rustling bin liners right now, which is a problem. But
Come,
we're
come
good.
join my side. Ash, tell us about your week, mate. We missed
Yeah,
you in the
yeah.
southern part of Europe.
Where have you been all week, Ash?
Yeah, weeks. But well, I've been working. I know
Oh,
you
working.
guys. I know you guys have been working too, but I've not. Actually, we've had a lot of sun here as well, so it's kind of like that, but no sea, no pretty faces to look at like yourselves. So it's a shame, but yeah, no, it's been good. I've been finalizing a few things that I've been working for a few months, and I'm going to announce a big thing next week. Very
Oh,
excited
the
about it.
Before you get to
happening.
that big thing, can I announce that? Like, can you hear these motherfuckers rustling bin liners?
No.
Oh,
Good,
good, mate.
because I want to
Yeah,
like come through them right now.
but be
Literally
nice to them
halfway.
because they're cleaning up after your shit.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
and
it's a good
that's a lot
stage,
of
though.
cleaning.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Well,
cleaning. Everyone in the
Hello to
chat,
everyone
tell us where you're
joining us.
coming from. Tell us how was your week from 1 to 95. Sylvia, hello from Washington State. What time is it
yes.
in Washington State now?
What's up,
Did I know you
Sylvia?
in New York, Sylvia? Is that where we're at? I don't know. But
Yeah, good
it looks like
morning,
they
afternoon, and
give me
evening, wherever you are.
99.9s all week. Where's all the regulars? Where's Mark? Where's Lena?
Mark said, yeah, Mark, did you see Mark's message? He said he's on
No.
the way to Limassol, but he's lost because of his sat nav. But let me just see if I can grab my pint of Negroni.
Yeah, because
He
I
knows us
promised
too
you if he
well.
came on Tuesday that we'd have Negronis. See?
Yeah,
For real.
yeah. So, yeah,
Right,
but
let's get
anyway,
into it, Ash. Come on.
Akon's here. What's up, Akon? So yeah, welcome to the Water Cooler. It's a bi-weekly live for those of you that have joined us the first time. We talk about all things brand and more, with special guests every time. What's up, Ian? How
Special
you doing?
secret guest
Yo,
every time.
New York represent.
They're flooded in now. Okay, so let's get into it. Like today, we've got a very special guest because he's a good friend of ours. His story is very inspiring in many ways. We're going to talk about burnout, career transformation, sprinkled with a little brand and maybe some animation, film, toys. I don't know. Let's see how the convo goes. Our guest today has an amazing story. He's lived in Argentina, in the UK, in Spain, traveled and worked in over 50 countries. He started as an animation assistant in the 90s and then moved into design as a freelancer. And then later in his career, he had the pleasure to work for a company plenty could only dream of. And that company was the Walt Disney Company. And he was there for 2 decades. After that, he went on to do various roles before setting up his own brand consultancy. He is a fellow brand strategist and a good friend of ours. So please give a warm welcome to Ezequiel Abramson.
Yes, bro.
Hey,
Look at the boy
Hello,
smiling.
Ez.
How are you, man?
we're good.
Much
The
better
one.
now that finally we have someone nice to look at in the room, because these two are getting bored very quickly. It's good to have someone else. How you doing, buddy? How was your week?
Good to be with the one.
Ah, exactly. You made
So
it.
Izzy, where are you at the moment? You're in Madrid, right?
Yeah, I live
Yeah.
in Madrid, north
Yeah.
of Madrid, actually outside of the city.
And I know you like, is this your home office set up, or do you have a?
The office is real,
Yeah.
not a
It's
background.
not the background. That is the real thing.
The real thing, but it's blurry because of the camera. Yeah.
So Izzy, I've got this like one question, right? To start off with, over the 20 years you were at Disney, did you collect loads of like little memorabilia?
Yeah,
and
can't you
little-
see the one
is
in the
that,
back?
is that all?
Right there?
Is that all
Look
Disney stuff?
behind
Yeah.
you.
It's not all Disney, but I have Marvel, Star Wars. I'm a toy thing. I've been collecting for decades, not just for Disney, because you get lots of presents. You get the opportunity to buy original stuff. I travel around the world
Wow.
because of Disney, buying stuff in China, Japan, Mexico, US, of course, Brazil, Argentina.
Ez,
So yeah, I have tons of-
what's the most valuable thing you've got from Disney?
I have an autographed Marvel comic, which it was given by the Marvel team in New York. I
That's
think
cool.
the most valuable things are not physical. It's actually experience.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Look at that. You've just been called Easy E in the chat, by the way, and that's going to stay.
Easy E, yeah.
Straight out of Madrid.
Did you dream as a kid to work in such a company, or it just happened?
No, yeah. I've always, since I have memories, I've been an illustrator. I've been missing classes just for the sake of being drawing in class, and I started studying art when I was 14. So I was into illustration comics for a long time before joining Disney. Actually, I have a funny story which I idealized in my mind over the years. But when I don't know how you call it, the first year of high school, you have this tutor thing where they ask, how do you see yourself in 10 years? And I wrote in a paper, it was 1988, and I wrote, I see myself working at Disney.
Did you really?
And 10 years later I was. I actually
That's
did.
amazing. So
And
I know this
not
wasn't
only
in our
that,
prompts.
but my first job was drawing the characters for Disney as a freelance.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a job. And years later, in a reunion, I actually bumped into this teacher, and I told her, I'm working at Disney. She said, and she reminded me of this conversation. I didn't remember.
So can I just break that out? Like how like did you manifest that? Like is that a thing? Or like I know this wasn't in a prompt, but how the fuck do you get from a kid to going to Disney? Like what's that step?
So I guess it's a lot of luck and a lot of work. I've been working on creativity and design and art almost my entire life. I started, as I said, when I was 14, doing a lot of stuff. And I guess by studying animation and studying comics and working as an illustrator and then working on computer animation and being many things around this freelance life of the illustrator I was manifesting. Also, I was lucky because my dad at the time was a big corporate event organization, I don't know, manager, or he had a corporate event company. He was actually running all the avant premieres for Disney in Latam, and they needed a couple of signs for those events. And instead of hiring an agency, he hired me. I printed 3D signs just as a freelance stuff. And someone asked, okay, who did that for you? And he said, it's my son. He does this or that. And then we entered in there a conversation, and I ended up freelancing illustration. So back in the day, Disney was thinking about running a parade show, these chariots things in the parks, but outside in a big avenue in Buenos Aires in Argentina. This is like the, I don't know, Fifth Avenue of New York, for example, very iconic avenue.
Yeah.
And they were working with a famous choreographer and designer at that time. And I was the guy visualizing that costume design and art expression of what this parade should be. So I found myself, with big books, corporate brand guides from Disney in my house, copying characters and reading about the official colors and the official, ways of creating these characters. It was mind blowing for me. But I didn't see myself working for a company for 20 years. Actually, I was planning to move to New York and become some sort of a David Carson.
Don't we all?
Yeah, of course. Without the skating. So yeah, but one thing took the other, and they offered me a job in the company as a creative junior for the marketing, the theatrical division, the movies in America. So I was responsible for my first job was localizing every single marketing material for any movie. At that time, we were launching 40 movies a year, printing those localized materials, the logos in Spanish, the pictures, everything, and ship it to every Latin American country. So I learned the craft of distribution and managing markets. And
Amazing,
Yeah.
it was crazy. And
Wicked, man.
Yes, I want to know the feeling from a kid drawing and dreaming about that. I want to know what you felt that first Monday that you got the job. How was that? Tell me about that, because this is like beyond dreamy.
It was extremely weird because of many things that you wouldn't imagine. First, I had to work on a suit. So I was a graphic designer on a suit and a tie.
You're going into construction, you're going into fabric, you're going into drape, you're going into like all the shit I learned at school, basically.
Because at that time, late 90s, I don't know why, but the regional office in Buenos Aires in Argentina, we were very elegant and dressing up very serious. So that was the thing. At the time I was also a typography teacher in the University of Buenos Aires in graphic design. So after work, dressed like a banker, I would go to the university to teach kids or students, typography. It was very weird. But to go back to the question, yeah, it was a dream come true very early in my career.
I'm taking it that culture changed from suit to a little bit more relaxed over the years.
Yeah. It was many reasons why they started changing, but also at the same time, Disney, the late 90s, was experimenting a new way of being organized as a corporation. So in 1999, the Walt Disney Company, that had multiple divisions divided into different countries and offices who might not talk to each other all the time, the company decided to merge everything into one single management team that was responsible for the entire Walt Disney Company, something that only happened outside the US there. And it was a prototype, like a test market. And by that time, I was the only person doing anything digital for the company in Latin America. I was the only guy. I was a digital kid doing websites and supporting marketing for that. And I was offered the digital job across everything Disney. So I had the chance to learn, about the radio business, about the TV business, sports, merchandise.
A diverse experience you've had there in that one company over that time. So that was, you started moving into new media late 90s into 2000. And then let's fast forward a little bit. You ended up being the VP of a couple of departments. So digital media, and then general manager, and then later on global product creation. Like, how was that step? Did that feel like just a natural step, or was it a big thing for you?
To add to that, is like, how quick did that happen?
Yeah, how quick did that happen?
So the company started in our region to grow very, very fast, and digital, particularly after 2000, 2002, started to explode and get embedded into everything that the company did. So I started gaining more responsibilities, and we started hiring a lot of people. And suddenly, I grew up as an executive. I was probably half cooked as an executive. So I had to learn by doing. And I was sitting at a very senior table, being a creative and being very young. So I had to learn very fast. But digital moved very, very fast and expanded to different things. And the first thing that I had to learn very fast was business. So I was a creative. I was pretty good at interpreting what the company should do to engage with audiences through marketing, through creativity, through promoting what the company was doing in digital. But then I started developing the digital business, what meant that I had to travel across many countries in Latin America with my portfolio, and closing deals with different types of companies to engage in digital businesses. That meant at the time, for example, selling ringtones and wallpapers.
Wow.
We did millions of dollars with that. Something that is
how does your mindset change from from a pencil to a dollar sign? Like, literally, like.
I don't know.
And I know you.
I was surrounded by incredible talent in sales, in distribution. I was supported by my peers, and I had a great team, and basically was failing very often that I learned how to do it. Failing massively, I guess, in several times. I went to Brazil to negotiate a very big deal with a mobile operator that didn't speak Spanish. Nor English. I didn't speak Portuguese, so we had to communicate in what we call Portuñol, which is Spanish and Portuguese. It was a mess. So I got back and I started learning in 6 months. I was very fluent, less than 6 months fluent in Portuguese. So I had to not only negotiate in my own terms, but also in new languages. And then because I was part of global divisions, I got the support from my peers across regions. So what was going on in Japan, in Europe, and even in the US was a couple of years ahead of what was going on in Latin America. So I was learning how things were working digitally wise or technology wise in other regions. We were preparing for that to come to the region and educating all of the partners and the company to adopt that. That happened with apps, with video games or mobile games. It happened with virtual worlds that we launched. The distribution of movies before Netflix. We sold movies and TV shows to websites that offered those movies pay-per-view or by subscription before the platforms we love right now. So it was very early.
So you're on the cusp of this.
Go on, Ash.
I was going to say, you're on the cusp of this company that's kind of leading in emerging new trends and new things. Like, ahead of it, Like, did it ever feel like? Did you ever feel like you were kind of? I mean, you said you were failing a lot, and I guess winging it, learning along the way. And it's hard not to because it's all new stuff. But did you get time to enjoy that ride, or is it only in hindsight you look back at it and enjoy it, what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
experienced?
I found in look, I'm probably part of the first generation of graphic designers that had to design in a computer. Back in the day, we were kind of the first. Not every graphic designer, at least in my circles, had a computer. So I learned, I don't know if you remember CorelDRAW and very very crappy software at that time.
We are
So
old enough, mate. Unfortunately.
yeah, and then I moved to interactive design, and we were working on CD-ROMs and the first websites. And then I moved to Disney, and I found that technology was an incredible platform to tell stories and to engage with audiences and to amplify what probably traditional media didn't wasn't able to, particularly the one-on-one and the back and forth relationship with users or at the time customers.
Mm.
So I was mind blown by the possibilities. I went to the US in 1999 for the first time to an internet world conference where Seth Godin was teaching about online marketing for the first times, and I came back transformed
Yeah,
because I couldn't believe that how big the digital world was becoming and
yeah,
how many companies were doing such amazing things. So I came back and I felt like a mission to develop. Like I felt like I had a new purpose instead of me directing a movie or being a character animator at Disney. It flipped, and I became kind of a technologist and helped the company interpret what Disney should mean in
Yeah.
digital platforms. So for me, it was very very easy. It wasn't. I didn't feel the pressure, although I had a lot on the role because it was all new. It was everything. Every 6 months was a new platform, was a new thing to evangelize and travel around the world, learning and teaching that. So no, not yet. But I guess the stress was accumulating beneath without knowing, right?
Yeah.
yeah. So you know
Um,
that. Ash, let me ask this. So you know that that moment where you got that little thrill. Do you think that's what's inspired you to move into the area you're in now? Obviously, into
Yeah,
startups, into
I
tech,
always,
into
if I have to summarize, my 20 years at Disney, I think there are three big trucks that you can distill the learnings that I got. One is on the strategy side, which what I do. From the very first day, I, I I started to learn the strategic thinking way. A company that has at that time was like 80 something years old. Everything ran through planning and anticipation, and I started to learn really long-term thinking. Every single year, the Walt Disney Company goes through what it calls 5 or 10 year plan, which is every year you have to tell the company what are you going to do the next 5, even though you explained it last year. But every year you renew your predictions and your ambitions. So thinking long term was something that I started to learn. Then, of course, the brand led decisions. Is it good for the brand? What we are going to do? Is it good for customers? It's not just the money or the objectives. It was about creating something that it was superlative, extraordinary, and it was always moving the limits because it was in the air. The globality, this globalization, the internet opened doors and windows for everything. Collaborating with very diverse audiences, countries, cultures, and learning how things are done in different markets, and in everything through the lens of the head of a digital business. So I was running a business, dozens of millions of dollars a month, a year, hundreds of people in different countries, interpreting a very old legacy, which is Disney, through a new media that had its own rules, it had its own pace. So it was a very, very rare and extraordinary process, going through that. Then it was the focus on quality and details. The way Disney does things is always the extra mile. Although you can agree that you like or not that movie or the other, lately, and I agree in some, but the amount of detail and the amount of effort that is put in every single corner of every production, every product, every experience is incredible, and the storytelling, as you know, it was a masterclass every single day.
Yeah, I bet.
From super executives that I got the luxury to work with globally to the interns, everyone was what I call now the brand sommelier. That everyone understood something about the brand.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it was incredible. Yeah. So
what a great training ground. So now let's switch in terms of, obviously it sounds like a high pressure job, right? And wherever you are at that level, you're going to feel a lot of pressure. Like, what was that moment where you were kind of feeling burnt out? And I can imagine anywhere you are at that level, people are coming across that. So I want you to kind of share maybe your feelings and how you felt that, because I want to take you through. Let's stick with the story, narrative, transformation arc, but let's start with how it first all began.
Yeah, who's the villain, Ez? Who's that villain?
I guess the villain is always internal. You can blame the outside world, but it's always in you.
Yeah.
And definitely I'm going to take responsibility always. The way I explain it always is, when you have an executive career in a big company, hundreds of thousands of people, it's like climbing the Everest. The higher you go, the less air you breathe. It's very, very dangerous for you. Now, not everyone can get to the top. Even if you're super prepared, the most resourceful people in the world failed climbing it because there are external factors like a storm or internal factors like biology that prevent that person to get it, right? And very, very, I don't know, disabled people were able to get to the top as well. There was someone that had no legs and got to the top to the Everest, and it was somehow the mix of things was able. So when you grow in a company and you have an executive role, your space for action gets very, very small and small and small because everyone has its own territory. So over the years, I wasn't ambitious, to be honest, but over the years, I was, of course, increasing in stress, more responsibility, more people. You run businesses, so you know what it is to go to bed with dozens of people's lives as your responsibility, and the problems and the opportunities and the aspirations. I had hundreds of people, and of course, I not only was enjoying it, but also a little bit stressed. I decided to get out of my comfort zone. It was comfort zone because I accepted a role in London, which was an amazing opportunity for me to move out of Latin America with my family and establish here in Europe. And by no means that was an incredible experience for me to lead hundreds of people in Europe, particularly in a creative role, creating products and art that was applied for multiple businesses. But something was awakening in me, which was something that I couldn't prevent. I did a very, very bad due diligence to the job. Honestly, I moved very quickly. I was invited to move to Europe, and I said yes very fast. We moved and the job was not what I was expecting from my perspective, and I started to feel that I might have made not the best decision, and that started to affect me.
Mm.
I started to lose focus and make bad decisions. I blurred my judgment in many ways, but at the same time, I had a lot of pressure from the outside that didn't help. And in the worst part of, I had panic attacks. I had, a lot of, what you call a burnout. You put it on the title, and and then in the middle of the worst part of my process, that I was trying to, okay, how can I do this? Because I moved with my family to Europe. It changed my life for my job. And I'm not comfortable with my job. What should I do? Should I go back? Should I stay? Should I fight it? And then the pandemic came in the middle of the worst moment. I was struggling to grab the situation, or try to have some sort of control. It blew up.
So just to be clear, you were in London at the time of the
So
pandemic.
let me explain a little bit of the context. In 2018, Disney acquires or merges with Fox,
Got you.
company the size of Disney. And at that time, I had multiple responsibilities. I was the head of digital. I was the head of publishing, books, magazines as well. And I was the head of creative, all for Latin America. And to merge Disney and Fox, the company started to restructure and redefine roles. And hey, so in that time I dropped the digital hat and I kept the creative and the innovation role. And several months after I focused on that part of the role, I was invited to move to Europe to do that for Europe. That was it. And that's it.
So is it? This is whereabouts were you in London, and what year was that when you first moved?
So I moved in 2019.
Oh, okay, that was a lot later. Because funnily enough, I used to work in with Turner Broadcasting, which got acquired by Warner Brothers. So is that your arch enemy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an enemy, but there's a lot of people crossed. But I've been through many acquisitions of Disney. I was, as an executive, you get a very tiny part of helping integrations. We saw the Pixar acquisition, the Star Wars, the Lucas acquisition, the Marvel acquisition, and then several interactive or digital acquisitions that I was more close to it, like Club Penguin, for example. I don't know if you remember, it was a big virtual world for kids. And so I went through this merger and acquisition crisis, if you call it, when companies from both sides start to take over or not, and protect or not the culture, and discuss how what's mine, what's yours, who tells you what, and it gets very political and at the same time very creative.
Can imagine. Yeah.
So that's one of the angles that I actually help some of the companies that I work with, because they go through merger and acquisitions. Sometimes they prepare the companies to be acquired. So when Disney started to adopt Fox as part of the organization, I actually moved afterwards.
Got you.
Yes. Do you miss illustration, designing, creativity? Getting yourself into that, and it's more about trying to understand what is your relationship between being born as a natural creative, going into the corporate world, having to lead team, acquisition and strategy and everything. What is your current relationship with that, between these two worlds?
Well, creativity is every day, every hour, every minute. This. It doesn't matter if you draw, write, or sing. I consider myself a creative person, and I always been, and I always will be. So every day I create something, whether if it's for work or for pleasure. When it comes to art, when I have time, I take my iPad now and I draw. As you can tell, I have a lot of stuff, but I draw, and you can check my stuff, on Instagram if you want. I don't post a lot,
As I was
but you
looking
can
at
tell what type of
the
things I
line
do.
drawing, is crazy shit. Like,
Yeah, it's great.
showing me in London is wild.
So you're still in touch with that side, yeah?
Totally.
Yeah, a lot. I not do it, for work. I've never sold a piece of art, whether if it was not a commission when I was an artist. But everything I did, I still own it. One day, maybe, I don't know. But I'm connected with creativity. Of course, I work in a creative shop. I help companies to be more creative, to create new things, to communicate better. And I also design a little bit. I'm very, far from the designer I was. I try to design every day for the things that I do. But yeah, I create.
And as like, how did you manage, or what have you learned, I guess, because you said something really precious, which is like creativity is in everyday work, whether you're corporate or not. And I think that's fun, that's amazing. But there is still a big contrast between corporate and creativity, and how you can bring creative problem solving into the world, and like, how do you manage to make boardrooms more creative in a way, and unleash that creative thinking?
It's funny because, in most of the boardrooms that I was, over the years, whether it was a global one or a local one, I was the only creative in the room, and I always brought this pretty crazy angle to the conversations. Sometimes it made sense, sometimes it didn't, and I felt it. But I was always it was well accepted because Disney is a creative company. Even the lawyers are creatives. Like the finance people are very creative with the numbers, but also with, they have an opinion, because they are Disney, and regardless where you sit in the company, some sort of part of your role is related to this. You breathe it every day, and you meet with creators. You are in recording studios, or shooting movies and TV shows, and or in my case, I was surrounded by designers and developers and programmers and product designers, producers, writers, illustrators. All of these people were always very active around us. Now, here's what happens, because I started as an individual contributor. Of course, you are a designer, you're a creator, you do the stuff, and then I started to be the boss, and then the leader of many people. So I had my opinion about what the design should be, or what this phrase should be, and never ever said make the logo bigger, never. But I felt entitled, because I was the leader of the team, to sometimes give my opinion.
Yes. So at what point did like strategic insight come into that decision there? So what you just said about you've got an opinion, but that opinion turns from it works from I like when did that happen? Because that's your strategic movement coming in there.
Yeah, you realize very quickly when you start, time, days before you were seen as a peer, and then people start looking at you as the boss. You feel it in the room. I really remember that time when I entered rooms and I started feeling the looks. That's not my peer, that's my boss. And I started fighting it, started acting cool, and started to be friendlier than ever, very, very cringe.
Did you manage?
Yeah.
Huh?
Did you manage to look cool?
I mean, you've carried it on into the rest of
I looked way, way cooler than I look now. But one day, I think I realized that actually I had to embrace the leadership role, and actually it was good for me and good for the organization, because people look up to you. So you need to be up.
It's good advice. That's very
Yeah.
good advice.
Yeah, and you need to let go
Yeah.
part of yourself and embrace the new one, because people need you as a leader. They need you to be you to have a different view of the situations, the rooms, negotiate stuff for the team when the team is not in the room. So I started learning, that that was a new phase for me, and I started, taking, courses, reading books, getting coached very early. So I did the homework to become an executive, and ask questions. I had internal mentors and great leaders. I work with incredible rock stars at Disney, big ones worldwide, that I was always able to learn from them and ask the questions. But yeah, it's I think in the creative life you have to choose. If you really want to grow your business, you need to become a different character. You need to embrace it and let go.
So to follow that on, it's quite a deep question, but I know growing up through history that Disney has either been impacted by social movement or it's impacted social movement. I don't know if you realize, but at what point did you realize that you were part of like a social movement in life? Because Disney impacts, or it addresses a social movement, and that you being a leader, you have to realize at some point you're informing society, right?
I don't know if it's too heavy, maybe, but I always said that I was in the smiles business. I wasn't in the entertainment business. I was explained that I wake up every day and I go to the office to see how many smiles can we create, with the brand, with the effort. Whether we did it well or not, it's probably history will tell. But I can tell you that I've been in hundreds, even thousands of live experiences with Disney and its audiences. I've been over 60 times in the parks for work or pleasure. And one thing that I always I was amazed was the faces, the actual audience. In theaters, I wouldn't look to the stage. I would actually look back and see how people reacted to things, and I was very I observed a lot about the customers and how what was the effect of a song, of a dance, of a scene in a movie. I could feel. I learned how to feel. I got immune, by the way, very immune. So I was able to, abstract myself from the experience, because you've seen so many. I don't know if you know, but when you see when you go to the movies and you see a movie like Pixar or something, the teams at Disney saw that movie like 10 times before in different phases of the production. So over the 5 years, you've probably seen the movie 10 times. So by the time that you see it finally, yeah, you enjoy it as a finished product, but you already seen it. You can assess it more objectively. You can see the audience. You can understand the moment that you're.
Yeah, you get out from like technical side, I guess, to the actual what moves people. And that's kind of like music. If you're a musician and you create a musician, a lot of them are kind of thinking about structure, intro, middle, whatever, and they lose that experience of enjoying the music until it's someone else's music. Yeah. So I can completely understand that. Ezequiel, I want to, because we're coming up to the end, but I want to move into like I know it's gone really fast. I'm really enjoyed it as well. But we flip-flopped as well. So like I want to like go back to that moment where you obviously moved to London and you were at that kind of crossroads. What was it then that took you from that working life or employed life to wanting to start your own business? and you'd been a freelancer before, so it was a long time before you'd done it. How was that decision making process for you, and what was the impetus for that?
It was a layered process, meaning that the first phase was horrible. I was completely broke. So I decided to exit Disney because of my health. I decided not to fight it anymore and change my life. Otherwise, I don't know what would happen. So I agreed with my leaders and the team to move on in the middle of the worst part of the pandemic. So people were dying mid 2020, late 2020. So it were people dying, no vaccines, everything closed. It was a disaster, and I was changing my life at the moment. We decided to move to Spain from the UK. And honestly, I wanted to take a sabbatical. I decided, okay, 1 year, let's see how the world evolves. I need to get over this and see what I want to do. I have time, I have some money, so I'm not on a rush to decide or take a job again. Actually, I knew that I wouldn't. And I found myself studying again and reading again and finally spending time on YouTube that I've never had, learning new things. Yeah. And I started to feel the need for creating something new for me, a new job, like and at the same time, some friends, colleagues, family started to call and say, hey, now you have time for me. I need your help. So I found myself having Zooms or Meets, helping people, and whether it was hiring someone or pitching for investors or rebranding or rethinking things. And I found that I had muscles that I wasn't using, in my role at Disney, and the type of influence that I had in a small business for the range of things that I knew was incredibly magical. I didn't know that I had that power.
I love that. Like it's almost like and I can imagine, because of that rich experience of yours over so many years, it's something that comes naturally, and you found another superpower, right?
Of course, I've been through many years of budget and P&Ls, millions of dollars of cost, investments, hiring people, redesigning organizations, planning and strategizing, creating new identities, creating product, launching multi-million-dollar digital businesses across markets. So I did many things within the context of a huge corporation with a lot of support. And so when I got out of that in the wild, I found that all of those tricks and ideas, although they were useful, I needed to unlearn a lot of things, because all of my potential solutions were Disney size, like Disney worth, like multi-billion-dollar expectations and very high bar. So I had to unlearn the demand for excellence. And I started to learn. Although I was part of the startup and technology world for over 25 years, I had to learn a new way. So I got into training new things. That's how I met you, Level 6 and many other courses that I did. So I needed to professionalize how am I going to help people before even I called myself a consultant or whatever.
What's mad is when we met in Barbican, and it was so close after this experience that you're talking about now. So it was kind of raw, pretty raw then, right?
Yeah. So this was 2020. So 2021, I started crafting my business and prototyping and MVPing my consultancy and thinking, okay, what's the process? What's A, B, and C? I bought every process I had in front, distill the best parts of the things that I liked, reread a lot of things that I read in my life, and come up with a thesis, a hypothesis. How am I going to help people? What is the perspective, the methodology that I need to put in place? And I started practicing live with clients. And So I created my company, Lalo, and I started to officialize this. I started to post officially on LinkedIn on 22
Right.
on this new role and creating new content and yeah, you know the story. So
I mean, like when you talk about it, you can see you light up. So I'm assuming that you're enjoying life at the moment.
I do, yeah. I always say that I created an ideal job and I hire myself to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I love brands and I've been always related to it and creativity, but I also got in love of business development, strategy, and the creation of value, and also I've been involved in the entrepreneurial world for decades. So having the chance to help hundreds of people creating new value, creating new companies in with technology, changing a little bit this world we have and improving the
Yeah,
market,
it's rewarding. It really
building
is.
things, creating jobs, you know, taking the money from the rich and putting the money on jobs is really really good. And
That's Wes there. Look, from the land of Robin Hood as well.
Real life Robin Hood. I spoke this today.
I didn't say say stealing though. I said
I
taking.
didn't say steal. There's no
Yeah.
guns involved or robbing. Okay.
Just take it. Yes, before you include that, and yes, it's amazing because all of us in that room in Barbican in London, all four of us from different stories, we were all looking for
But
something.
you even as he didn't know that either. Like we all came there with that perspective, but we didn't even realize it.
That's
Crazy.
right. Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think at that time I knew it, but I was early on in the inception of it.
You were searching,
Same,
just
same,
like
same.
us,
All of
like
us.
all three of us. Like,
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
so
Is
I
it?
guess,
Is it? I'm gonna before because we're coming up to the hour. I'm gonna switch things up.
are you actually going to do
I'm
my?
gonna switch the.
Are you
No,
switching?
Because
I'm gonna.
it's loud here, so we in the back channel we were like,
Leave
you do
it to
it.
him. Leave it
But
to him.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna switch things up.
you do it. Go on then. Go.
Right, we're gonna get We're gonna get personal. Is it? This is what usually Wes says, but
Okay.
it's very loud. Yeah, let's go. Actually, you
let's
might
go
want to do
top
that because you might want to like show us how you do it as well. Maybe not. What do you love to sing in the shower?
I don't sing, but
What's your ballad in the shower? Come on, give it.
I actually don't sing in the shower. But
What about in the car?
I'm really bad on I'm really bad on lyrics. I can't remember lyrics. If you ask me my favorite song and I can sing it, I won't.
What kind of music you into?
Yeah,
Electronic.
I never know this.
Look, my dad was a very famous song how do you say singer songwriter in Argentina in the 70s. So I was born into
Okay.
record studios, tours, and everything. So I've been through music my whole life, and I love many genres. But I like electronic music, which is weird, on the on a musical background. But
Yeah.
I love DJs and I can't actually work without it. Can't
Yeah.
focus.
And then just before we go, one other question, or have you got a question for us? Ash hates this one.
Ash hates this question. Ask him the question. Ask him.
So have you got a question for us three?
Yeah, what's the most challenging part of working together? Because you all have
Ash.
your
I was gonna. We all got different answers. Mine is Wes.
Let him talk. Jesus.
So you called Wes a thing.
I'm
He
a
is.
thing.
West
He is.
is a thing and it's a scary thing.
I'm an object that performs.
No, the hardest part of work. You know what? It's weird, and it sounds like a cop out answer, but it's not hard. It's very easy working with each other, and that's what makes it such a good like combination. And I think that's just naturally how it came about after the masterclass we did. We just gelled. And I'm sure like there was a lot of people in that room we would have been gelling with, but we were in a group together and we just naturally, we came together and we just thought we kept in touch and we said, let's do it. And it honestly is very, as cheesy as it sounds, we are like brothers, like we are siblings in a room.
Ash, you're avoiding the question. He said, what's the hardest thing?
the distance.
I've already answered that. It's Wes.
I think the distance is the farthest thing. I think
Time zones, definitely.
if we were closer, we will work more together. And I think we all met each other at the right time of life, and we all reconnected with our true purpose, and that made our collaboration much easier. And it's like any good brand collaboration. It has to be made of purpose, right? There has to be alignment, and I think all three of us align in that, and it's very easy. The hardest thing is that we are too far away and we don't have enough time to hang
Logistics.
together.
But
Do you text each other before going to sleep, like good night?
Yeah,
literally we
yeah,
do. Like,
yeah.
Well,
we have
sometimes
to-
in the middle of the night, Wes does.
Wes calls us at 2 a.m. in the
I'm great
morning.
at calling, drunk dialing at 2 a.m. I'm amazing at that. Like, that is my
Is it?
favorite.
Do you ever collaborate with other strategists?
I tried with you, Ez, didn't I, at one point, and we didn't make it work. But
Yeah, I don't have a team. I'm a company of one, and the way I work is I assemble the teams within the startups I work. So I become kind of an assembler in their teams, and we bring people from the outside when we need to. I brought some marketeers, not brand consultants, because it wasn't necessary at the time, the type of process I have, but I would be open to, yes.
Yeah. I think we all come from that learnings of like the Hollywood model, right? So, and I think that works best when you put, like you said it there, you're assembling teams for the right reason and for the right purpose.
Let me tell you, so the methodology that I created, which is not rocket science, but the process I run was designed for hybrid or remote working, because most of the companies that I work with have people around the world.
Global, yeah.
If I had to run a physical workshop with 55 people, I would probably be in the need of people and people like you that know how to run a room, because the work I do is digital. It's running rooms from in a very, very different way that I used to in the company. So yeah, I would be lost. I did it a couple of times because some companies bring me to the market to do stuff physically, but most of my work is through this.
What kind of work are you doing now then? What are you really enjoying at the moment?
So I'm working with a Mexican company that is a fintech that is in the microloan business. So they basically give micro amounts of money to very low socioeconomic level people in Mexico. They have an incredible system. They have stores with artificial intelligence and cameras, so they can assess these individuals that are invisible for the financial system, because, as you know,
Wow.
I don't know if you know the poverty law, but the poverty law is basically it's very expensive to be poor because you are labeled as high risk, and because of that, banks charge you more. So they can't ask for loans for the banks because they are punished. So it's a dead circle. So this company created a system where they give really, really accessible loans through an incredible technology. I'm working also with a company from Argentina that is changing the way big brands, Coca-Cola level, manage refrigerators, and how they smart their way into understanding what's going on in those coolers around the world at scale. And I work with another fintech that is helping banks change a process that I can tell from 2 months to 88 seconds. It's incredible.
And just on that first case study, are you drawn to those type of purpose-led brands? Like, is that what?
Not necessarily. No, I worked with companies in multiple verticals, in multiple regions, in multiple phases of the business, super early or very late, B2B or B2C, and most of these companies, although we work on manifesting the purpose, right? These are not purpose-led per se. Okay. Now, I would say that they are very purposeful.
Yeah.
They're changing markets. They're a change factor in society, and And although they are not claiming a purpose as a business, they are really purposeful, and they make
changing things.
they
Sort,
want to change things. Sometimes, not all of them, but when it happens, it's really inspiring. But it's not a reason for working with them or not. Mm-hmm.
All right, man.
Well, that's an hour done. Is it? That went so fast.
Cool.
Yeah.
So where Disney.
where can people follow you? LinkedIn, I would imagine.
Yeah, here. I spend most of my social media time here. Although I'm in every platform, I don't necessarily use them.
Oh, yeah, and we usually say this at the start in the debrief before we got you on camera. Is there anything that you want to talk about, promote, or anything that you want to get people to check out at the moment? Any work that you've even done, maybe?
My work is very invisible because I'm not a branding agent. I'm not a graphic designer or an artist for clients. I wash brains, so it's difficult to see that. But with time, probably these companies are going to be more visible, and sometimes you might tell, okay, I was a little bit of help for that. But no. I post almost every day. Although LinkedIn is not making it easy lately.
Good stuff as well, not just posting, really good stuff.
Yeah, and also recognizable as well.
The design posts I've ever seen daily, apart from him, but you consider everything, which is amazing. You know it.
Go and follow him; you will not regret it.
There's been a lot of comments, people loving it. Also from a mutual friend, I think, Oana, you know her from Disney Days?
We didn't meet at Disney. Actually, we met through LinkedIn. Never met.
Brilliant. Even better.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Thanks everyone for joining. Don't forget to subscribe, tell a friend, and support the water cooler.
Can I just put a disclaimer out? I'm sorry for the audience, noise, everything. We're in the middle of a festival. People weren't considerate, but we want to say bye. Thank you.
You know what? You actually didn't have to say that because we didn't hear a thing, but there you go.
This shit the whole time.
Thank you so much, Izzy. Take care. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye. Ciao.
Don't stop believing.